How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the 7th episode of Flight Time. This episode is going to be a little bit different because Ken's not here. It's only me. It's only Billy this time. And there's a story behind it. There was a little bit of a mix-up. Sometimes we record these episodes in advance. Like, we'll sit down, we'll record maybe 2 at a time. We'll bank one just because we know we're traveling, or maybe we know we're going to be busy and we won't be able to film or record an episode for a certain day. And we did that. We banked this 7th episode because we knew we'd be traveling over the weekend for an upload on Monday. But Ken didn't upload the audio, so I wasn't able to put it all together. It was left at home on his PC, and he's now, I guess, in Palm Beach or whatever, so it's just me today. We've still got that other episode already recorded and ready to go, so I'm going to save that. I'm going to bank it. I'm going to upload it once I can get the audio from him, because I think that it was a great episode. I think that it's a really cool topic to be able to go back and forth and talk about, just because it's something that really involves you guys. It's kind of a big question where you guys can share your own experiences. So I think that's pretty cool. I'm going to save that topic. I'm going to go over something totally different, kind of pulling something out of a hat here. So currently right now it is 3 o'clock in the morning on Monday. On Monday, technically Sunday night, and this is going up on Monday morning at 7. So I'm recording this very late as I just got off of the plane. I'm coming back from Huntington Beach. I was out there for a birthday party, and you know what, I'm going to try to sit down here and talk for as much as I can, just because the biggest thing for me is, in a year from now, I want to look back and say, wow, we've uploaded 200 episodes, or however many episodes it'll be. We've uploaded this many episodes, and we haven't missed a single time. So if this thing's only 10 minutes, I'm sorry, but I still wanted to get something out there for you, and also for my sake, because I really do want to try and keep the consistency here. So anyway, what I want to do is talk about agriculture and drones. It's a field that I personally am starting to get into. It's something that I'm doing for my clients, or I guess new clients who are farmers, not only in my area in Philadelphia and New Jersey, but also up in Connecticut. I've actually recently got a really big client up there, and I'm really excited to tell you guys about it. I'm not going to share a lot of info about it right now, but I will have a bunch of things to share with you in the future. Now, I do want to share a little bit of some information before I go any further. First of all, I am not an agronomist. Some of this data that I'm working with, I'm kind of collaborating with others to understand what the plant health looks like from Drone Deploy, and you know, how to understand the photos and the videos that I'm taking for them to use in the future. So first of all, I'm not an agronomist, and second of all, I'm very new to actually doing agriculture in drones or with drones. So you know what? If any of you guys out there have any sort of information for me, tips and tricks, whatever, I'd love if you can leave it down in the comment section, because again, I'm just getting my feet wet in terms of agriculture with drones, and I think that honestly, it is probably the biggest industry currently that drones could have an effect on. For the longest time, I sat there and, you know, I always thought that I wanted to really pursue the construction industry, but I think that most of these construction companies right now already have somebody doing their drone work for them, or they already have their own drone in-house. And I think that farming is an area that is ripe for the picking. I guess that's a way that I can describe it here. So basically, I've got this farm I'm servicing up in Connecticut. They are growing hemp. They're growing medical marijuana. I've been doing some research on the growing of hemp, but also how drones can help farmers, not only with hemp, but also with crops like soybeans or corn, or wheat, or really anything out there that you can grow from the ground. And the first thing I thought of, obviously, was Drone Deploy. Right now, on their website, they say that these are the industries that Drone Deploy can help in, right? You've got agriculture, construction, inspection, mining and quarries, oil and gas, roofing, and solar. And I would say out of all of those different industries, it's going to have the biggest impact on agriculture. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at a couple of the maps that I've already made of this field. I began when there was no sprouting whatsoever, so the seeds pretty much had just been planted. So I started with this huge open field of dirt, and now there's quite a good amount of growth on here. So I can tap on plant health, and I can get an idea of just how healthy these plants are. And also it gives me an idea of where we're seeing the most growth on this field. So not only do photos and videos help, but Drone Deploy is a huge help in agriculture. For those of you who really don't know how this works, how the plant health works, it basically detects the near infrared light that's being bounced off of the plants from the sun, and then from there you're going to get a plant health reading. Now, if you use a near infrared camera, it's going to give you more accurate results, and you're going to use a different algorithm within Drone Deploy. But for me, I'm just using a standard RGB sensor. I'm using the Vary algorithm right now through Drone Deploy, and I find it's giving me a really good understanding of where we're starting to get growth. Now, again, these plants are very new. They're just starting to sprout out of the ground. Actually, I haven't been there in about a week. So I'm sure that when I go back up there, which will actually be on Monday as I just landed, the next day I've got to drive up to Connecticut. But I assume that when I get there, we're going to see a good amount of growth. And again, this is something that I'm kind of learning along the way, and I can't wait to share more info with you guys when everything is all finished. And I've been doing this for like a year, but as of right now, I just kind of wanted to share, I guess, my beginning findings in agriculture, because I think, again, Drone Deploy and just regular photos and videos are going to help the agriculture industry so much. I mean, drones, they're going to really change the way that farmers are able to not only tend to their field, but also plan their crops, plan their irrigation. It's going to be huge. Here's the one problem with Drone Deploy, though. It's pretty expensive. So they've got 3 different plans. They've got the Pro plan, they've got the Business plan, as well as the Enterprise plan. And each of these obviously are progressively more expensive as you go up in the tiers, but also they give you a lot more, I guess, features, and there's a lot more export options. There's the option to add different users. So the Pro account costs $99 per month, and that's billed annually, right? So $99, that rounds out to $100. You're paying about $1,200 per year for the Pro plan of Drone Deploy. If you buy it monthly, it's going to be $150 per month, so that's just going to increase the price by half. So now we're looking at a price of maybe around, like $1,800. So it's obviously going to make sense if you see some long-term use out of this to go and just bill or pay annually, because it's going to be less money. But if you step up to now the Business plan, it is going to be $300 billed annually. So now you're increasing that price by 3. So rather than paying $1,200, you're paying $3,600, which is very expensive. And actually, just because of how much work I've been doing in the agriculture scene, I also called them up. I asked them about their enterprise plan, because on here it says contact us for pricing, and it's pretty expensive. I mean, for about 5 users, they were quoting me a price of between like $10,000 or $15,000, and I said, well, okay, what about like 10 or what about 20 users? And the price just kept going up and up and up. So obviously, it's all going to depend. I haven't really gotten like a rock solid quote from them about that enterprise plan. I've merely talked to them just a little bit, but it is definitely expensive. Now, they do offer a try it version of the business account, so it's like a free version. If you want to go ahead, give it a try, use it for the 14 days or whatever that they give you, that could definitely be very beneficial, because you don't want to jump in and spend all of this money right off the bat and be like, well, I don't really have a use for Drone Deploy. But I can say that if you are a farmer, or if you're somebody that services farmers, Drone Deploy is going to be an absolute no-brainer. You just got to make sure you're making enough money to actually pay for this software. And we'll get into money in just a little bit, because I think that trying to tap into the agriculture industry is going to be a little bit tough. So again, Drone Deploy is pretty expensive, but I'm also sitting here and I'm looking at some of just the straight photos I've taken of their field, which is pretty large. It's about 40 acres. It's very long. It's pretty much a perfect rectangle. So I went and I took some photos all the way around, and I even showed some of the guys there on the field. I just showed them my screen, and they were like, oh, wow, look, you can see this, and that. So, I mean, even just putting the drone up is going to give somebody on the farm such a benefit. I mean, it's going to give them an advantage that they didn't have beforehand, before drones were so mainstream, before almost everybody knew what they were. I mean, you're able to see potentially where water's pulling up after a storm. You're going to be able to check your crops right there on your drone, fly up and down the fields, because let's face it, that's going to be a lot faster than actually going and walking through the fields. But yeah, I mean, drones just offer such a benefit. And if you don't want to go with Drone Deploy, you can still go out and purchase a drone that's $1,000, like the original Mavic Pro. And you can take some really great photos of a field, not only for yourself, for your farmer, but for potential clients. And here's the problem. And this is probably the first problem I'll get into with starting up like an agriculture drone business, is that most of these farmers will probably just go out and buy it themselves. Now, currently I'm working with a high value crop. So these guys I'm working with, they know that there's going to be associated cost with purchasing the drone, buying the software, and they are looking to expand. So, they're okay with outsourcing this to me as somebody who's not a farmer. I'm just capturing the data, I'm delivering it to them. But again, you've got to understand that if you try to approach somebody who's just growing corn, that is not as high value as something that is like medical marijuana, right? They're probably not going to want to spend a whole lot of money for consistent maps, and they're probably going to see that it's a lot less expensive to just go out and buy the drone and buy the software rather than pay somebody to do it for them. So again, it kind of depends on the situation that these certain farmers are in, but that's like the first hurdle I see trying to jump into the agriculture industry. The second one, and this is probably like the second big one, the first one obviously is these guys just doing it themselves. But this next thing that comes to mind is a lot of the farmers are older. Now, occasionally you'll come across like a young farmer who maybe, it's part of like a family business. Maybe they moved and they're starting a farm somewhere else. If they're young, they might understand the benefits of a drone, but if they've been farming for years, if they've got fields that they've been tending for 20, 30 years, they're probably going to say, why do I need this drone? I've had so much success just doing it myself. What's the reason that I'm going to need to pay somebody, or I'm going to have to go out and buy a drone in order to do my job better? I mean, it's just something that inside of their head, they're going to be able to say, well, I've been doing it fine for the past 30 years or however long that they've been actually growing. And I've kind of experienced this going into the whole entire stockpile game or the stockpile industry. I tried to pitch to certain clients, tell them, hey, I can do stockpile inspections with my drone. It's going to be cheap, fast, this, that, right? All the benefits a drone brings. But they just said to me, look, I've been doing this for 30 years. I can look outside and I can tell pretty much exactly how much I have inside of a pile. And that just comes with experience. So these guys who have been growing for longer times, they might not see it as a necessary thing to have these drones. Now, again, like I was saying, if you're dealing with a high value crop, something like medical marijuana, if you lose 20% of your farm, that could be a really, really, really large amount of money that you're losing. So these guys or anybody who's in the high value crop industry is going to be definitely jumping for using a drone, because not only is it cheap, but it's also fast, it's efficient, and they can really determine what's going on with your field before something bad happens. And that's what I love about the plant health feature. I've been doing like non-stop research on Drone Deploy's website. I've been watching a ton of different webinars. There's a lot of different ways to interpret the plant health data, but this is essentially a perfect starting point. You're able to look at this, and once everything is fully grown, if you see an area that's starting to show signs of like red or maybe a yellow or maybe even closer to, I'd say orange, like between yellow and red, then you're going to be able to say, all right, look, this week we've got to go here. We've got to understand what's going on. And once you actually have your boots on the ground, they call this ground truthing. Once you actually get out into the field, you go to a certain area and you understand what's actually causing this problem, then you can fix it. Because obviously with the drone, if we shoot some photos, we can't say, well, yeah, right here is red and look, there's an irrigation problem. It just shows you the area, and then these farmers will just go out and try to understand what they have to do to correct their problems. Now, I want to go into a little bit more depth here about plant health. I realize that what I'm talking about right now without being able to see something might be a little bit confusing. You might be saying, well, what am I looking at here, right? I mean, how am I going to determine what's healthy and what's not healthy? So basically, when you turn on the plant health, you get this histogram on the left side, and you get a value, like a number value, between -1 and +1. And then from there, those values are associated with a color. So anything under 0 is going to be like inanimate, dead material. So if you've got like, say, some dirt in your map, it's going to show up as red. If you've got some asphalt, like a road laying in your map, that's going to show up as red. But from there, anything above 0 is going to be alive and healthy. Now, anything below 0.33, remember, we're in this range between 0 and 1. So Anything between like 0 and 0.33 is going to be very unhealthy or unhealthy plant material. And then anything from 0.33 to 0.66 is going to be healthy. And then anything above 0.66 is going to be very healthy. And if you guys want, I'd recommend going out and just trying to do a quick test of maybe a field or a farm that you guys have nearby if you're interested in using drones for agriculture. And then take a look at the plant health, play around with it, get an understanding of exactly what's going on. And also, if you really want to use Drone Deploy, go ahead and check out some of the webinars and some of the different articles they've written, because it really does have a ton of information that'll allow you to get started. And that's where I really got my start. That's how I got an understanding of how drones can be helpful in agriculture. And from here, I can't wait to take that knowledge and then apply my own personal experience so I can give you guys like a full tutorial on how to do agriculture drone work from start to finish, how to get started, the advanced tips and tricks. But again, I mean, this right here, looking at this plant health view, this is absolute money. I mean, it is gold to anybody who is running a farm. They're going to be able to understand maybe potential patterns of certain areas that aren't growing crops properly. They can address it in certain instances moving forward, like in the coming years. So if they know that this certain area isn't growing crops well, they can say, maybe we're not going to waste our time planting crops in this section because look, over the past 3 years, they've consistently died. And then also, this is something I actually didn't even touch on. There's an elevation view within Drone Deploy. So from here, if I just turn on elevation, it's going to show me the areas that are higher and lower. And again, it gives you these values of the actual height of the surface that we're looking at, and then it associates a color. And from here, we can understand the low and the high points of the field. Now, obviously, all of these fields are not going to be perfectly flat. There's actually some fields I've seen that go up on a hill, and that probably, you know, if you're a farmer, you might be saying, well, I see that every single day. But it's crazy to me that these crops can be grown on a hill. And if you're going to be running something like a drip tap system underneath of the ground, if you're going to be running any sort of irrigation, or even if you want to prepare for big storms, you can get an understanding of where potential water might pool up right there on top of your crops. Obviously, if they're sitting drenched in water, it's not going to be good for them. So using this elevation view is going to be key. It's going to really allow farmers to understand where their water could be pooling up after a big storm. But yeah, guys, I mean, that right there is only scratching the surface of agriculture drone work. It is such a huge industry. I mean, there's a whole other option of like spraying crops with drones, and that's something that I really would love to look into. Maybe not something I really want to do personally, but also maybe something that I can learn to then teach others. And you know, some of the guys that I do work with, maybe pitch that to them and say, look, you guys can go out and buy your own drone. You can spray your crops, set it up. It's very simple. But again, that's like a whole entire topic for another video. There is so much great technology to be used with agriculture. I think it's really going to revolutionize the way that crops are grown. I know that there's already a lot of people out there using them, but I think that there's not enough. I think that almost every single farmer should, you know, not only go out and hire somebody who's skilled, somebody who knows what they're talking about when it comes to drones, but also maybe even just buy one for themselves and do a scan, maybe every single month, and get an understanding of just how their crops are being impacted, and get an understanding of how to use the plant health and incorporate that into their workflow. Because scanning a field with a drone, you know, 40 acres could take an hour. That is a lot faster than trying to walk the entire thing by foot, or maybe hiring other people to help you walk it by foot. This gives you a really great baseline. And again, I can't wait to go forward, and I can't wait to kind of gain some experience and put that behind the knowledge I've learned now, so that I can really make some great agriculture videos over on my personal channel. You know, it kind of felt weird doing this without Ken. I actually had to do about 4 different takes. And just sitting here talking to myself, I feel like I'm almost out of breath. I don't know anybody that does a podcast by themselves. I think that almost anybody out there who does a podcast has somebody that is going to be with them. They have like a co-host or a guest or at least something, because doing a podcast by yourself is pretty brutal. But yeah, guys, that's gonna wrap up this podcast. I hope that you guys enjoyed. And feel free to check out the other links in the description. We're over on Spotify, Google Podcasts. We're also on SoundCloud. We're on YouTube if you guys aren't watching on YouTube. But we do have this podcast available on pretty much anywhere that podcasts are available. Also, as you guys can see by the thumbnail and the backdrop on YouTube, we're featuring some other people's pictures. As of right now, it's pretty much just only me and Ken. We're trying to backlog some photos so that we can kind of share other people's content. So if you've got some great drone photos and you want them to be featured, feel free to email us at flytetimepodcast@gmail.com. I believe that's it. It's going to be down in the description. You can just send an email right there. Be sure to include where the photo was taken, what drone it was taken with, your Instagram handle, your name, and from there we'll give you a little shout out down in the corner. But yeah, guys, felt a little bit weird without Ken, but I am glad that we can get an episode up. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll talk to you in the next one.